Hello and welcome to Provision-ISR's webinar. Today's subject is Provision-ISR's Cam2, the application. Today we're going to touch more the advanced technical features that this application has to offer and less on the more, let's say, attractive features such as, I don't know, let's search by face. I'm gonna search my face just for an example, to show you the abilities that this application has to offer. So I pictured myself, I was searching from a period of time to a period of time, then I get results sorted out by similarity rate, as you can see, 100% or 99, 98, and down going. To the left we can see the names of the cameras that captured my face. In the middle we can see the time. If we just press the record, immediately we can see that's a bad record of mine, but okay, get a point. And we can see a couple of more results. Now, all of those things, the more attractive features, has been already discussed and demonstrated in the seminar part, Provision-ISR's Cam2 seminar. So whoever is interested, you can go and watch that seminar. Today we're going to touch the more technical features. So let's begin. So to start, all we have to do is to press the upper left button and immediately access the advanced options. So let's start by going into local and let's see what we have here. First of all, we have playback prior to push message, which means that whenever someone crossed the line or entered the serial area or just a movement has been detected and we want to get a notification over it, then we will see a push message. Once we press it, we will see 10 seconds before that event and during the event, and of course moving on. What is the notification type? Reserved disk space, so the phone will only be used, the application will use only 50 megabytes of the phone's memory. Recycle recording, once those 50 megabytes has ended, it will start to FIFA to overwrite. If we disable that, then we will no longer have new recordings or snapshots. Split snapshots, actually this is pretty cool. If this is not selected, then once we take a snapshot, we will only get the snapshot that we want. You see, only one screen is being flashed. But if we will go here and split snapshots, then we will get all of the screen flashed, which means that we'll basically get, if we'll go into file, we will see all of the photos being taken at once from all of the NVR. Okay, let's continue. Favorites. In favorites, we can basically edit the names of the groups, and we can, of course, delete them if we want. Okay. Launch setting. This is how we determine how the application will start. Will nothing happen when we start the application? Do we want a certain favorite group to start, or a certain device maybe? Or the last channels that were open. Gesture password. If you want to add another layer of security to our application so no one can open it without us or without knowing the password. Screen rotation correction. Some smartphones has a special resolution, so here we can adjust the application to the phone, to the resolution. On-screen display. Here we can see, once we enable it, we can see the NVR and the camera's name on the video itself. Reverse PTZ direction control. If we will swipe down, the camera will look up. If we will swipe left, the camera will look right, and vice versa. PTZ gestures, usually it is on off. Let's show an example of what it actually does. So here we have a PTZ, and once I press the PTZ option, the PTZ button right here, I can see all of the gestures that tells me what can I do and what I can't do with the camera. Very simple. Automatic connection. Once this feature is set to enable, then we will automatically see all of the NVRs. If we press here, we will see all of our devices, if they are online, as you can see here on the right mark, or offline, like here. This one is not online. So if I'll for a second disable it, you will be able to see. Okay, now we can see that everything here is offline. Of course, we would always like that to be on automatic. Moving on to remote settings. Here we can control the settings of our remote devices with our application. So we have two devices here, demo, room NVR and DVR. Let's for example go to the NVR and see our options. Let's start with camera. So here we have two options, add and edit a camera. If we'll go into add a camera, we can see that we can add a camera quickly. So the NVR basically shows all of the cameras that are in his LAN. Of course, all we have to do is to mark them and press the disk on the upper right corner, but we are not going to do that right now. We can add a camera manually in case we want to add a camera remotely. So if the NVR is in United States and the camera is in Thailand, we can connect the both of them. Of course, we can do that with different protocols. Now, since we have integration with Hikvision and Dahua, so we can use their protocol as well as OnVIF, of course. We quickly add a recorder, same principle as quickly add a camera. We can add a total recorder. It can be an NVR or a DVR or a hybrid. We can do that for two main reasons. One, if we want to back up one of these devices, or if we want to create a standalone watching machine for a security guard, for example, instead of using a computer. Same goes for add a recorder manually. We can add a recorder even if it's in a different location from the NVR. Default password. This is where we determine the password that the NVR will use to access the cameras of Provision or of OnVIF, Hikvision, Dahua, or how to access a recorder. What will be the password? Very simple and very easy to use, and all of that from the application itself. Edit a camera, very simple. Here we gain access to the cameras that are already on the NVR. Then we can change the parameters. For example, the name of the camera, the IP address, ports, username, password. Of course, we can also modify the password for the camera. Next thing will be record. This is where we can control how the NVR is going to record. Same as locally from the NVR. So I just pressed mode settings. Now let's see the options here. Same as with the NVR, we can decide if we want to only record by motion or sensor, or by motion and sensor. Maybe something that we don't have here. By pressing advanced, then we can choose, for example, only motion and analytics, for example. Of course, that we can control if we wanted to record only manually. So only when we press the record button, this is the only way our NVR is going to record. So for now, we're not going to save it, of course, and jump into advanced right here. Okay. So in advanced, we have here a couple of interesting options. Cycle recording, which basically means FIFO. Expiration time. How long do we want the NVR to record? 1 day or 90 days, or customized, maybe a period of customized time. A lot of options. Of course, that we can control each camera separately. What will be the pre-record of that camera, or what will be the delayed recording, so before the event has occurred or after the event has occurred. Let's not save it. Under encoding parameter, I can control the encoding, the resolution, frame rate, bit per second, everything. So we have here all of the cameras on our NVR. Let's choose, for example, number 14. We can see that the camera is being encoded by H265. This is the resolution. Those are my options. I can change any of them. Of course, the frame per second, as I said, and the bitrate. Everything is changeable through the application. Of course, this is useful if you want to control the amount of HDD being used through the encoding parameters. Now, of course, those were the parameters when an event takes place, when a line is being crossed or a motion being detected, face being detected, something like that. But we also can control the normal recording stream right here. We can see it. So once I press it, we get to the same screen, but not exactly the same. If I change here the parameters, then that will only apply to a 24/7 recording when nothing else is happening. So basically, this is the screen where I take down all of the resolutions and all of the quality of the picture in order to save some disk space. But when an event takes place on that screen we just wore, then the resolution jumps back to the highest quality. Of course that everything is settable and we can change whatever parameter we want. Under network stream settings, we determine the quality of the pictures to be shown when we approach the NVR through the network, so it doesn't affect the quality of the recording. Next, we can see that the schedule settings is not operatable. It's because that the NVR is set to record on this plan. But if we will change it to manually, right here, then this is where we determine when the NVR is going to record, so we can set the schedule. On view recording status, this is where we can see live the status of the cameras. We can see the resolution, the frame per second, the bitrate that is being used, and we can see that it records and all of that information. Next, we are going to go into the system. So in the system settings, we can control the basic settings of the NVR. Starting from the device name, device number, video format it's going to have, main and secondary output. So by controlling that, we can actually fix remote problems. If our client calls us and tells us that he sees nothing on the screen, we can connect to his device remotely from the app and change the main display's output. In case that is the situation when this television does not support the output resolution. A few more things. We can enable the wizard so that the next time the NVR reboots, the wizard will pop up, auto sequence, and start after. Meaning after how much time we're going to start the automatic sequence. Sequence is when a camera jumps one after another. We're not going to save. Date and time, I don't think we need to talk about it very much. Basically everything that has to do with GMT and time settings. We can also have access to the log. If something has happened, we can filter what kind of log we want from here, and we can reboot our NVR automatically. So next thing is going to be alert. This is where we can control the alerts that the NVR produces. So for example, if we'll go into alarm out, we can control when those alarm outs are going to be available. For example, if we'll press configure, we can determine that the schedule for that alarm will be 24/7 or 5 days a week, 2 days a week, or any other schedule that we can create. We can create our own schedules. So for example, if we created a siren that will be activated every time when an unfamiliar face is approaching, then we can make that rule, that siren, to be only available throughout the weekends when no one is here. Of course that we can also determine how long will take that alert, that alarm, to stop. Same goes for all of the alarms here. By the way, those alarms can be either connected to the NVR, to the back of the NVR, or they can be a part of the IP camera, which can be distance 100 to 100 meters away from the NVR. Email. If we'll press on sender, where it says none right here, then we can determine the email that the NVR is going to use. All of the information, the email address, SMTP, server, port, and all of the required information, of course. And we have also the recipients, who is going to get the email. Okay, we provided the email address and the schedule. Do we want the email to be sent 24/7, or do we want it to be sent only 2 days, 5 days a week, or any other schedule that we have set? Under display, we can set the video pop-up, the duration that it's going to pop on the local screen of the NVR, or the message box, same thing. We have the buzzer settings, how long we want the buzzer to beep. If we have set, for example, that the NVR beeps whenever a line is being crossed, then we can determine that after 1 minute the beep will stop. Push message. whenever something happens, then we want to get a push into our phone. So first we can enable it, and then we can determine the schedule, of course, and to test it. So we press test, and we can see that we have a push message. So for the next menus, motion alert, analytic alert, sensor alert, general faults, this is where we determine settings for each kind of alert. So for example, motion alert, let's choose this. Here we can see a list of cameras. We can see second floor, sales desk, and all of the other cameras that exist in our NVR. Now for each of these cameras, we can determine that, for example, if a motion has happened in this camera, then we press configure. Then we determine that when this motion happens during every time of the week or 5 days a week, never mind, we can determine that those cameras will record. So we can see that second floor camera and sales desk camera is set to record. We can choose any other camera if we want, and we can choose what cameras will take a snapshot, what alarms out will be activated, and all of the other parameters such as push or buzzer, making the NVR beep, and all of the rest. Same principle for analytic alert. If, for example, we will choose line crossing, then we can see that we have the same parameters. So when line crossing, when we are in line crossing, we can select the camera, same as we did with the motion, press configure, and determine what will happen when a line is being crossed in back counting camera or any other camera that we can see right here. Okay, sensor alert, general faults, and face recognition alert, exactly the same way as we just showed. For example, face detection, choosing the camera, and configure it alerts. Disk. This screen will show us every single thing that we need to know about the disk. So disk management, we can see all of the disks inside our NVR. Disk number 1, disk number 2. We can see the kind of the disk, it's Toshiba. We can see the capacity, and we can see another one, small one of just 14 gigabytes. It's the USB. It is also here on the list. We can also see the serial number of the disk. We can see the status. It is set to read write. We can even see the record period of that disk. Storage mode settings. The same exact way that we can choose in our local NVR. We can create different groups and assigning them with different disks and the cameras. If we want, for example, to have 2 important cameras to record for 1 year, then we will take these 2 cameras and assign them into the same group as one HDD. So one HDD will get recordings of these 2 cameras, and the rest of the cameras will go to the other disk. So we can see here that we have here, this is group number 1, this is group number 2. Let's go to configure group number 1, and we can see the details. We can see the disk 1 is in this group, in group 1. We can see all of the cameras that are recording into that disk. We can also see the amount of cameras right here, where it says 14 cameras. This is group number 2. We can see that it contains 1 disk. If we will press configure, then we will see disk number 2 that contains only 2 cameras. One camera is face attendance and the other face DDA. And like before, we can see that it contains only 2 cameras. So basically, what we did here is that face attendance and big DDA, those are our important cameras that we want to have recordings for a lot of time. So 1.8 terabyte are going to be used to record these 2 cameras. View disk information. This is where we can see all of the information regarding to the disk, same as we did before. and smart info. If there is something wrong with the smart parameters on our disk, then we can see if something happened to our sectors or anything like that. Of course, that we can also see how much time the disk number 1 has been running. We can see the temperature in Celsius, and we can choose another disk to see that the other parameters of the other disk. So we can see the disk number 2 has been powered on for 620 days. That's a long time. Okay. Next will be the network. From here we can change all of the parameters of the NVR, starting from the IP address, the preferred DNS as we see here below. We can also change the email properties, what email the NVR is going to use to send email notifications. Of course, we can see down below the view network status. This is where we can see all of the information, starting from the preferred DNS to the bandwidth being used, remaining bandwidth, and of course the NAT status and push server status if they are online or offline. Outside for the network, we can also see the account and authority. This is where we can add user, edit user, delete a user. We can edit permission group. Permission groups are used to give or take permissions, what that the user that is a part of this group can do to the NVR or cannot do. Of course, we can see the online users down here below. We can see all of the users that are currently connected to our NVR, and we can manage our block and allow lists. So if you press enable, then we will get two options here, allow list and a block list. So whatever IP that we will add here, it can be either a local IP or a remote distanced IP, that IP will be blocked from entering this NVR. Of course, that we can change it to a certain segment, or we can also configure it by, wait a second, for MAC address. If we want a specific device that we know that is harmful, we don't want it to connect to our NVR. If we have, for example, an employee that has left the company and he has the application on his phone, but we don't want to change his password because a lot of other employees also use the same password, then we can block his specific MAC. Let's not save anything, and so as you can see, this setting, the remote settings, is a place where we can change every parameter in the NVR itself. A very powerful and efficient tool that can be used from the palm of our hands. Let's continue into File. This is where we can see all of the media that has been downloaded into our phone from the application, starting from videos to photos that we've took. We can see here the same thing, and of course that for each photo here we can share. We can share it into WhatsApp or wherever we want, and of course that unlike other products, when we share a video file, it is totally playable in other devices, even through WhatsApp, because the format stays MP4 and not other formats that WhatsApp cannot recognize. Next, we're going to go into the server list and see a couple of options that we have here. First of all, we can see that this is a camera. This is the model of the camera, the name of it, and here the type. Here we can see that this is an NVR, that's the name we gave it, and what model is it? Actual model, NVR8, and the rest. DVR, we can see that this is a standalone hybrid. Now to the right, we can see this green mark, green antenna, that shows us the status of the NVR. Is it online or is it offline? So a small remark I wanted to say about this. Our application supports up to 32 different devices that we can see their status online. But once we added one more, so if we have 33, then all of them will be offline. Application cannot support this kind of information. And of course it kills the bandwidth. So all we have to do, if we have like 80 different devices, By the way, the limit is 128, which is a lot. So if we have a customer that has a lot of branches of stores and he wants to search for one of them, he just clicks here and search for his device. This is my example, du the local NVR. Then he can find his device and access it. A few more things that we can do from here is by press of a button here, which turns red, we can quickly access the live preview of that certain device. Let's stop it. Of course, we can delete if we want, and we can see all of the information regarding to that device. So let's take for information this NVR, and let's see what it gives us. Basic info. We can see the name, we can see the device. Let's use the mouse. Device ID, hardware version, all of that information. Just a reminder, usually we would be able to access that information only from the NVR itself, but the application allows us a lot of more possibilities, like we can see. Next thing is the channel status. This is where we can see the channel name. This is one of the first camera that we have on the NVR. We can see the status that that camera is online. We can see that no motion is currently detected in that camera. We can see that no analytic is currently detected in the camera, and we can see that the device is recording because we record 24/7. This is how we like it. And we can see the next channel. I won't go through all of those channels, don't worry, but you get the idea. Next, alarm status. Okay, this is where we can see, oh my bad, alarm status. This is where we can see all of the alarms. What alarm is actually happening into what camera. So for example, we can see 5, it's not really error, it's actually 5 motions that are being detected by 5 different cameras. So on the top we can see front door face. Now on the bottom we can see 1 out of 5. So if I'll jump to the next page, the page number 2, we can see that front door face has changed into back counting. So I have motion on back counting and on sales office and all of the rest of the cameras, and I can see the triggers that are connected to that motion. So do I have an alarm out? No. Did I activate the preset of a PTZ camera? No, I didn't. Snapshot enabled, so that camera will be taking a snapshot when a motion is being detected. Will the NVR beep when a motion is being detected? No. And activate pop-up? No. And send an email? No. So I think we get the idea. Same goes for the analytics. We don't have to go all through that again, but the same principle. Okay, let's continue. Recording status. All of the cameras will be in that long list, and for each camera, let's for example take this in there. Channel name, as we can see here. This is one of our cameras. This is Office DDA. We can see all of the status. Let's go for the main Office DDA for a second. Each camera we set to record twice, once in the full resolution and once in the secondary resolution for remote playback purposes. So first we have the first Office DDA right here. We can see that it records 25 frames per second rate, the bit rate. We can see the resolution, and we can see that the recording type is by schedule, which is 24/7, and by motion, which currently it records by motion. And we can see another Office DDA, which is basically the other stream that we're recording for the remote playback that I mentioned. So we can see that this stream is a lot lighter. Same frame per second, yes, but the rate, instead of 3072, it's 512. The resolution, instead of this resolution, we have the D1 resolution. And the same recording type, and going on to the next camera. So we get the idea. We have all of the list with all of the information regarding to those cameras. So network information. This is where we can see all of the information regarding to network, starting from the IP address. Actually, we are going to see it in a moment. IP address. We can see the ports here. Okay. total bandwidth remaining, we're going to set in a second. Actually, no, this is where we see it. So we have the IP address, subnet, gateway, and all of the network information, HTTP port. Okay, this is the total incoming bandwidth, which means that this is the capacity of the NVR, and this is what is remaining. So basically, we are using 53 megabytes of cameras that they are basically using our bandwidth, our incoming bandwidth. We have also a total of outgoing bandwidth, which is 160, and we can see that no one is drawing a video outside of the NVR. So this is why the total of outgoing and the remaining is the same number. We can see the NAT status and the push server status. Disk information, we can see disk number 1 right here and disk number 2, and we can see their names: disk 1, the capacity, the remaining capacity, status which is read, source it's local on the NVR, and same for the other disk. That's it for the device info. Last thing here in the server list is the ability to share. So one press on the QR code will show us the QR code that whenever someone is scanning that code, if he have the password, of course, he will be able to get access to my camera. So for example, I can take this NVR, okay, and if I was let's say if I had a store that sells pictures, okay, and I want to give my clients access to those cameras, so I would scan this QR code, sending them the QR code, giving them, a username, not admin, of course. So then they will be able to access my cameras. Of course, I share it by pressing here. Then they could connect and see the inventory changes in my store, which is a great tool to expand my amount of clients. Also, we have the ability to print it and do a lot of other things. Of course, we can share it via WhatsApp or wherever we want. I think we've done with this. Don't know if I mentioned it, but we can also add, of course, we can add a device from here. Next is the push notification. Now here we can see some very interesting things. First of all, let's choose the first NVR, and this action, this trigger on button, basically triggers on the push notification ability in the NVR itself. It is exactly the same as if I would go on into the NVR, connecting a screen and a mouse into it, and just turning on the push notification. This affects the NVR, not the phone. So once I trigger that on, I won't be surprised if I'll get there it is. I got a push notification straight away. Now if I want to disable the push notifications, because as you can see we have a lot of them, then you can just unsubscribe from it. But do we want to get some push notifications from something else? So we can determine what notification we would like to get from each setting. For example, let's remove all of this and all of this. Okay, now I didn't want you to wait, so I deactivated all of the alarms. So now I'll show you how do we choose what are we gonna get push notifications from. So for example, let's go into for example here, face detection. Let's say we want to get push notifications only when, for example, main passage camera detects a face. That's it. So now we won't get a ton of push messages, just what interests us. Also, we have here the ability to choose exactly what we want. I just got a message and I touched with the finger so we couldn't see it. So for example, let's turn on the sterile area on the cameras, all the cameras, for example, to let you see how I get messages, and pressing save. Oh, there it is. 1 second and I got a message. So of course that I don't want all of the cameras. Let's just choose what's important for us. And that's it. Very easy, very quickly, full control on what push notifications you might get. In the meantime, let's just disable it so we can continue with our day, with our demonstration. Okay, let's continue. Next thing will be the notifications themselves. So we can see that we have a couple of notifications here. We have a total of 19 and 16 are new. We can also tell that the new notifications because they have a red mark next to them. So for example, let's go for the face detection event. Once you press it, we have 4 options: to play a live video, like here, or to play the playback from exactly the moment where those faces been detected. So if we'll give it a second, we will be able to see someone passing by. There it is. The next button that we have is, well, not here, face detection. We can activate a trigger. Okay, all of the triggers that are related to the NVR, whether it is in the back of the NVR or in a camera, an IP camera, we can also trigger it manually. And the next thing will be to delete the notification by pressing this. Let's press deleted. Now we have extra 2 buttons here. This one, that button will make all of the events to be old events, not new. As you can see, I already pressed it. And this button here will just delete all of my notifications. Very simple. Next thing will be help. In the help menu, we can see a list of subjects starting from live view, ending in notifications. Doesn't matter what we are going to press, we are going to see the explanation. So we have 2 layers. The bottom layer shows us the live view itself, and on the top we can see the explanation for what each button does. So this is a great way to understand things that we didn't understand before, or to get to know the application better. Of course, we have that for every menu. We can scroll up and down. File, for example, file list. Everything here is very, very simple and clear. The last thing we have here is the about. In the about, we can see the version. Okay, we can see also our phone, on what phone we are using. We can see the user experience program, the bug report if we encountered any kind of bug, so we can send it and make the program a little bit better. Of course, we have the legal statement and the privacy statement. And actually, this is the end of today's webinar. I was David from Provision-ISR. This was a webinar about Provision-ISR's Cam2 application. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I have. Have a good day, take care, and hope to see you in the next webinars. Thank you.